For Oasis Audio, I'm Wayne Shepherd. Nancy Herriman, the author of The Irish Healer, joins me now to talk about her book and just a bit more. Nancy, thanks for your time today.
Hey, you're very welcome. You're very welcome.
Realizing that some people listening have finished your book and some are just picking it up, tell me about this story you've crafted.
Well, it's a tale of a young woman who is in Ireland, who has been working as a healer, someone who can take care of the poor people in her town, most of whom probably couldn't afford a doctor. And she is falsely accused of killing a child that she has been tending. She can't get past the trauma of the event or the rumors and gossip that's swirling around, so she leaves her town, leaves Ireland, has found a job with the help of a cousin in London, and it turns out that which she didn't know, that it's actually in the house of a physician helping him pack up his house temporarily, a temporary position, helping him pack up his house and move away. The doctor has his own issues. He's lost many patients. He's thinking of giving up his practice. His wife died in childbirth, who he was tending. So they're both dealing with issues of believing in their ability to heal anyone ever again, and they want to give it up.
All right. I think I'm going to stop right there because those who have read it know, and those who haven't can imagine where it goes from there.
Yeah.
It's in the historical romance kind of genre. Tell me about the historical setting. How did you go about learning and researching that for your book?
I've always loved England. I think I've been reading books set in this time period since I was a child. I devoured every Dickens novel I could ever get a hold of. And so to me, it was almost natural to pick up this era. I've also done a lot of research. I started out doing a lot of research in the medieval era, but I have a lot of books on hand, and I just love to read about it, and that's kind of where it got started.
But you must really absorb it, though. I mean, have you been to these places?
I've been to England. We've vacationed in England just once, but maybe I watch an awful lot of BBC television.
All right, that'll do it every time, won't it? Well, do you have a favorite historical part of the book that you can describe for us?
Oh, I think I liked a great deal when Rachel first arrives in London, and the descriptions of the docks and her view from the boat coming up the river. To me, I am interested and intrigued by the crush of London in that time and what it meant to be a stranger coming into a city so bustling and so vibrant in good ways and bad.
So how do you go about picturing that? And obviously you didn't live there at that time, and you've been there once. How do you come up with that in your imagination?
Well, it's not easy, but I'm fortunate in that there have been a lot of English writers are very prolific, and there's also a great deal of research and first-person accounts available online. And so I was able to, hopefully, accurately recreate the setting just from reading online accounts of what it looked like at the time.
What's your favorite part of writing a book like this? Is it the character development or the historical setting? What do you like really to do?
I think the favorite part for me, and probably for a lot of authors, is the discovery of the characters. I'm sure you've been told this before, but they seem to write themselves. On a good day, they write themselves. On a bad day, they don't talk to you. But it's the process always fascinates me that they can take over the book, and sometimes a secondary character that you had no idea, you'd never thought that they were going to be important, becomes a force, and that's magical to me.
Yeah. How in the world does that happen? I can't do that, but
I have no idea, but it does, and it has happened with every book I've ever tried to write. That there is just, and sometimes, most interestingly to me, is sometimes they turn out to be the pivotal character, a character that you just scratched in. Turns out they had a story to tell, and you didn't even realize it when you started writing.
So are characters added as you go along, or do you have them all outlined ahead of time?
No, they're added as they go as I go along. I think the only ones I usually ever think of up front are the main protagonists, the hero, the heroine, maybe one key antagonist, and a couple I know I'll need to sketch in some other people. But absolutely, characters are added as the need arises.
And how do you kind of test whether or not you want to go down that road with that character? Do you have other people kind of looking over your shoulder, or?
Well, I used to a lot more. I have a longtime critique partner that's been with me since the very beginning, who writes for Tyndale now, Candace Calvert, who's my beta reader, if you will, who has often looked at a lot of my material, but now we're both under such time crunches. What I tend to do is just write through the book, and I will find out if they were useful or not, and then I go back through the editing process and start to reimagine that.
All right. But you got to give up at least one secret to writing good fiction. I mean, you know, people are going to ask you all the time, you know, how do you do it? How do I get started? What do I do? What's one of your secrets?
Well, I probably the only secret I have is not a secret. It's butt and seat.
Uh-huh.
You know, really, there's nothing like applying yourself.
I've heard that one before too.
Oh yes, absolutely. So it's, you know, I really don't think that there's anything other than, and I've also, I probably got the most serious about writing when I entered. I don't know if you've ever heard of Nanowrimo, but it's in November. There's a large, it's worldwide novel writing month, and the challenge is to write 50,000 words in that month, which is a very aggressive challenge. And I found that the discipline required to do that, to write what turned out to be 2,500 words, 10 pages every day, really taught me how to write through as fast as I can. I think a lot of people get stuck writing or never get past the third or fourth chapter because they keep going back and fixing and going back and fixing, and that you just get stuck in a loop, and all you have is a very short novel or, you know, a short story.
Interesting. So writing is a discipline, but is it work for you?
Well, at the moment, not. But I know it. I'm sure it can get there. I know it can get there for some of my friends. So at the moment, it's not work for me.
Mm-hmm. I would imagine that joy of discovery is kind of the fun element, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
No hesitation in answering that question.
No, absolutely. You know, if I get to a point where I can't think of a story, and that'll be work.
Get back to me then, huh?
Yeah, right. I'll talk to you later.
Okay. Well, Nancy, tell me about your life outside of writing.
What life outside of writing? There's a life outside of writing. I'm married. I live in Central Ohio. I have 2 teenaged boys who have amazingly busy schedules. I never thought when I was raising children that I would be one of those moms in their little, I have an SUV, I don't have a minivan, driving around everywhere, but that's what it's gotten to be. They're extremely busy. And I also sing when I have time. That's a huge outlet for me. I really enjoy it.
Mm-hmm. I understand from reading on your website, and by the way, I hope people will check out your website. It's give me the address, would you please?
Yeah, it's nancyherriman.com.
All right, just very simple, nancyherriman.com. But I learned there that you were once in a career of engineering. Tell me about that.
Yes, I was. Well, when I went, how do I describe this? I came out of high school, you know, I think I wanted to sing, but I was raised by a stout German who told me I needed to do something very practical.
And there was no American Idol in those days.
And there was no American Idol, and there wasn't YouTube either. But that was back in the dark ages when I graduated from high school. So I went to the University of Cincinnati, and I got a degree in engineering. And I was very fortunate to graduate at the time of the huge high-tech industry, and went to work for Intel, and loved it. Actually loved my career. Lived in Arizona for 20 years, working for them. But life changed quite dramatically, and it became just easier for me, and I could afford it, fortunately, very fortunately, to stay home with my children. So when they were 3 and 1, I quit and became a full-time mother. Mm-hmm. And probably a year into that, I decided I needed something else too. And writing, and I had always wanted to write ever since I was young. I loved to read, wanted to write. So it was an easy occupation to take up while my children were still young, that I could do out of my house.
Well, I don't want to pigeonhole people, but engineers are engineers, and detail work and writing is very much creative and as you said, discovery. How do you reconcile the two?
Well, I think there are days at first it was difficult because I kept wanting to look for a very specific formula. that I would think that if I could just fill in these blanks, I could do step 1, then step 2, and then a novel would appear. And so I had to release the regimented part of my brain that wanted me to follow a strict order. But I think it would also be surprised how many engineers, and I've known many, are very creative people, musicians, artists, photographers, many of them.
Yeah, I can see that, sure. And it certainly works for you.
Yeah, I hope so.
I have not mentioned this is your first book?
Yeah, yes, it is. It's my first published book. Certainly not the first one I've written.
All right. It's published in print by Worthy and now in audio form from Oasis Audio. That's pretty exciting, I would think.
It is. It's a reward after many years of trying and getting rejections. Some of them not so nice.
Yeah, that would be hard. It would be hard to get those letters. Or did you get letters, or they just not respond at all?
Well, you get a combination of the two. And I think that's I've known a lot of writers who have never gotten past the writing phase, may have 10 books stacked up under the proverbial bed because they are afraid to submit and get rejections or never hear back.
Mm-hmm.
And, I to credit agents and editors, they do try to be as professional as possible, but it hurts when your baby hasn't been accepted.
So how do you keep going? How do you keep, wanting to write more when you get that letter in the mail?
I think it would be really hard without the support of the friends that I have, the authors that I know, all of whom have gone through it and realize that it just puts you one step closer. This is cliche, but it is true. It just puts you one step closer to publication. You have to learn to be rejected. And bad reviews are far more hurtful than some editor going, "We don't really want this." Trust me.
Well, by the way, this
not
book's...
that I've had that many bad reviews.
Yeah, this book's getting pretty good reviews, actually.
Lots of excellent ones, actually. I'm thrilled.
I've read some of those, and the readers seem to be very pleased with The Irish Healer.
Yes, indeed.
So that encourages you, and friends, and do you have a mentor?
Yes, as I said, I have my very wonderful critique partner who's been with me forever and who's plowed the furrow ahead of me, and has been through many ups and downs. But I have a huge support group. The writing community is wonderful, no matter what genre you write in. It can be, at least my experience is, I know mostly romance authors who are truly a generous lot, if there ever was one.
Mm-hmm.
And they're always ready with a handkerchief and a box of chocolate. Trust me.
Well, tell me about this genre, this historical romance genre. Obviously, you're good at it. What attracts you to it?
Mine is probably, since it's Christian fiction, it doesn't have the other elements of romance that people associate with that. But what attracts me to it? I love the historical aspect. I like the escapist attribute of that, or aspect of that. I find I live in the contemporary world. I don't need to write about it. And I think that the thing about romance, and most romance authors would say this, is that the prospect of a happy ending. Oh. There will always be a happy ending, and there's nothing more joyous than the fundamental relationship of a man and a woman discovering they love each other, overcoming whatever difficulties have been put in their way, to be together in the end. That's the appeal. The appeal is that love will triumph.
Sure. All right, so you're going to continue writing, right?
Well, yes. I'm contracted to write a second book, and actually it's in the works right now. It's set in a very different place. It's in San Francisco in the 1880s.
Oh, boy.
So that's been fun to do research on that.
Uh-huh. Well, Nancy, it's been a delight to get to know you and to hear a bit more of the story behind The Irish Healer, and we're going to watch for more books to come out from you.
Hey, thank you so much.
All right, Nancy Herriman, who is the author of The Irish Healer, now available from Oasis Audio as an audiobook and in print from Worthy. Nancy, thanks for your time today.
Thank you so much.
For Oasis Audio, I'm Wayne Shepherd.